A pleasant evening to everyone. Hello to our participants, of course, to our BreederDAO team and our Stack League team, and to all of our YouTube viewers. Welcome to the Genesis Blocks BreederDAO Hackathon, a virtual blockchain hackathon in partnership with Stack League. And of course, we're expecting to have a 200,000 worth of cash prize pool. I am Isai and I will be your host for tonight's event. We also have tonight our head of growth for Stack League, Ms. Haifa Karina Baluyos. I would like to remind everyone that if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to say about our event, you can type them in our message box. And for our YouTube viewers, feel free to type them in the comment section. Also, to help Stack League team improve all our events for you, please answer our session's feedback. And before we dive into tonight's session, we would like to give you a short overview of Stack League. Right? Now, in its second competitive year, Stack League wouldn't be possible without the support of our partners. We're fortunate to be supported by the top companies in the industry. We have our platinum sponsor, Packetworks, silver sponsor, Coding Chiefs, and bronze sponsor, Microsoft, Deltec Systems, Apper.ph, Recruit Day, Gcash, Likha IT, and Manulife. Our media partners, Spark Up, Apps Gadget, What's Up Pilipinas, Corner Magazine, PH, Androidist, Megabytes, Backend News, Blowing, and Manila Republic. The same goes for our community partners who help the league reach as many programmers in the country as possible, and here they are. Also, congratulations to Mark Genesee Mamore for being the Stack League ambassador for July, winning the 3,000 cash prize and a Stack League t-shirt. If you want to be the next Stack League ambassador and win the cash prize and t-shirt, the program is still open for August. You can find the full mechanics at our website, bit.ly/StackLeagueAmbassador2022. That's bit.ly/StackLeagueAmbassador2022. And now to know more about the Stack League overview, here is Haifa from Stack League.
Hello everyone, my name is Haifa and I will be giving you an overview of what Stack League is all about. Stack League is the Philippines' largest online programming league. The mission is to develop programming leaders that inspire a nation into coding. The tournament is powered by StackTrick's fully automated talent, analytics, and assessment platforms. Now, what are the highlights of the league? The Pioneering Programming League was launched last March 16, 2021, and is now gathering over 15,000 tech talents across the country to test their leadership, perseverance, and coding skills with a promise of nationwide media recognition, lots of prizes, thousands of tech job opportunities, and access to invitation-only events. The league's year-round cash prize pool is now at 10 million pesos in the duration of the whole competition. That is for 2022. And one of the highlights in the Stack League is the weekly stack race, which is both for individual and teams. Each week, the top 10 challengers and the top 3 teams are announced all across Stack League's social media platform to recognize the challengers who stayed on top of their rankings. Apart from this, we also have the Stack League featured programmer and team campaign. The weekly top 10 challengers and top 3 teams are going to be featured on Stack League's website and on our social media channels. Now, Stack League will also be hosting numerous tech and career sessions all throughout the year. Aside from this, there are also exclusive trainings available for ranking to the next challenger levels. And these events and trainings are all for free. So if you are interested in different industry trends, technologies, best practices, as a challenger in Stack League, you will have access to all of these learning sessions. Now, what's next? We also have the Stack League Ambassador Program, and it is a year-round initiative to reward Stack League challengers who go beyond the competition and inspire the nation into coding. To tell you more about the Stack League Ambassador, here is a short clip for you to watch. All right, and that's for the Stack League Ambassador, wherein you will get, if you become the Ambassador of the Month, you will be receiving 3,000 pesos. And if you become the Ambassador of the Year, you will be receiving 20,000 pesos. And there are multiple ways for you to become a Stack League Ambassador. One is to really refer as many developers or interested developers to take on the challenges at Stack League. That's one. And then the other one is to post blogs or features using your own websites or other blogging platforms. That way you also get ambassador points. And now for the supported programming languages in the league, we have JavaScript, Java, Python, C#, and PHP. Now how the ranking system goes. So after signing up, you will start at the bottom with 0 points. All you need to do is set up the and earn the corresponding points. So the more points you earn, the higher your ranking goes. Once you have accumulated enough points, you can now get to the next level. You've got the next level where most opportunities are unlocked for you. So there are 3 challenger levels. We have bronze, silver, and gold levels. Now, the new thing that this year, 2022, is that the challenger level up now has prizes. So if you will able to unlock bronze level, you will be receiving, oh, here you go. You will be receiving 100 pesos. So that's 100 pesos as soon as you level up to bronze. Then as you level up to silver, you will be receiving another 100 pesos. And when you reach gold, you will be receiving and rewarded with 300 pesos. So overall, you will be receiving a total of 500 pesos as you level up from unranked, bronze, silver, and then gold. Okay? So now if you become part of be one of the 10 challengers to win this week. So on a weekly basis, we have rewards for the top 10. So there is also the Stack League Treasure Chest. That is what we call the initiative, wherein the weekly top 10 challengers will receive 500 pesos cash prize. What else? So there are a lot of things happening in Stack League, but this is also one of the highlights of Stack League for the year, we have what we call the Stack League Playoffs. So what is a playoffs? It is a single elimination tournament featuring all monthly qualifiers where all weekly top 10 Stack League challengers will automatically be invited to the monthly qualifier rounds, and you can read the mechanics at Stack League Playoffs 2022. And to know more, here is another clip for you to watch. Okay? All right, so as you can see here, we have the monthly qualifiers happening every month. And that happens, the playoffs monthly qualifiers happens every fourth Saturday of the month. So that's every from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So every month we are giving away for the top one. The top one winner will be receiving 5,000 pesos, and the top two will be receiving 3,000 pesos. Now, if you are interested in the schedule for the upcoming months, these are the schedules that we have. You can see them on your screen. Now, all of these players at the end of the year, by December, there will be a single elimination, as you can see the chart here, and the best players in the league will be crowned here through the playoffs. Now, for our new players here, if you cannot make it in the top 10 and you are still trying out, then that's the Stack League Lightning Series is the event especially made for you. So every level you have your own rank. So we have unranked, bronze, and silver challengers, and we do this one on a monthly basis as well. So for the unranked category, if you are still new here, we have an opportunity for you. It happens every second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. So that's where all unranked categories will play and experience a 1-hour programming competition and also get prizes. We have the bronze category. So many of the unranked challengers get to level up, and then they can now join the bronze level category. So the prizes here would be, the top two will be receiving 1,200 pesos plus a limited edition Stack League shirt. Now, for the fourth Tuesday of the month is when we do the silver category. So as you try to level up, there are more chances for you and there are bigger prizes waiting for you. So for the silver category, the prizes here would be 1,500 pesos plus Stack League shirt plus Microsoft jackets. And with that one, I give you the overview of Stack League. Now, let's go back and welcome back our host.
Thank you so much, Haifa, for giving a short introduction of Stack League. And now let us not delay any further. To give us a warm message tonight, I would like to introduce to you our keynote speaker. He is a former commercial airline pilot and now serves as the Chief Technology Officer of BreederDAO. He is BreederDAO's in-house broad tech and smart contract expert and is well-versed in blockchain, having deployed full-stack decentralized applications and smart contracts across several chains such as Binance, Smart Chain, EOS, and Ethereum. Recently, along with his two co-founders, he was hailed as an honoree of Forbes magazine's Asia's 30 Under 30. Let us all give a warm welcome to Nico Udulio.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, Nico, we can hear you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Isai. Hello, everyone. As Isai mentioned, my name is Nico. I'm the CTO for BreederDAO, and I would love to formally welcome everybody to Genesis Blocks. It is the first virtual blockchain hackathon that BreederDAO will be hosting, obviously in partnership with Stack League. So if you guys aren't familiar already, BreederDAO is the factory of the metaverse. So we use a mix of technology, automation, data science, and domain knowledge to rapidly generate blockchain assets at scale. And this includes everything from NFTs to play to earn game currencies. And now with our recent expansion into the metaverse, we're really excited to explore and hopefully eventually lead development within this new niche or paradigm of blockchain, where we look to compete, not only with the likes of Meta, but also collaborate with them and build really new innovations in the space. So you've got Meta, you've got Sandbox, Decentraland, and the like. But today isn't about us. It's about you guys, the future innovators and hopefully shakers of this new industry we call blockchain. So each year I feel like, it's the year of something in tech or in blockchain. So 2019, if you were around back then for cryptocurrencies, it was really DeFi. It was the year of decentralized finance. 2021 was the year of NFTs, non-fungible tokens. They took blockchain by storm and really brought like tokens and this new tech called Web3 to the masses. And hopefully this event that we've got tonight or this morning, wherever you're located, I know we've got some people outside of the Philippines that are joining. So thank you so much for your interest. Hopefully this can be the start of something awesome, something that can leave a mark for 2022. The name of the event is Genesis Blocks. It was coined by BreederDAO's marketing team. Hats off to them. And it's really talking about the first blocks that were mined on Bitcoin, or actually even all of cryptocurrencies. They were the first blocks to be mined, and they serve as this like foundation for not just Web3, not just blockchain, but the metaverse tech that we know today. And, just like the physical universe, and I'm geeking out a little bit here, the metaverse continues to expand, but obviously not without the help of bright and curious minds like yourselves, young developers, young at heart developers. And we get to decide really what we build next for blockchain this year and the years to come. So we at BreederDAO, we feel that events like these are absolutely necessary to help mold this next generation of builders. And it's our mission to onboard not only the next billion users onto the metaverse, but also serve hopefully as a guide to fleshing out the frameworks to help them build these things, these amazing new things that will serve as their own building blocks to the next step for tech in general. So developers, we need the opportunities to explore, to discover, make mistakes, to break stuff, and do that whole loop again. And this hackathon was designed to do just that. So over the course of the next few days, you and your teams will be given the challenge of creating innovative technologies and applications centered on Solidity, smart contracts. But we're also opening up for this hackathon the opportunity to use a stack that you're familiar with to create your own dApps, decentralized applications that don't necessarily need to write to the blockchain. They can read or cull data from the blockchain. So it's as simple really as using a JavaScript library like Ethers.js or Web3.js. So those are all fair game and free for you to utilize. And to help you get to know those technologies, we've got awesome mentors lined up to assist you through the weekend. We've got Paul Cass, one of BreederDAO's leading blockchain developers. We've got Marco Romero. He's the blockchain dev lead over at Union Bank Philippines. And then we've got a couple other people from the BreederDAO in-house team, all really excited to work with you on projects that hopefully leave a mark, not just for the Philippines space, but for international blockchain in general. So yeah, we'll learn more about the mechanics, I believe, from maybe Haifa in the next talk. But fast forwarding over to the end of the hackathon, we'll have you guys demo basically to a panel of judges, and we'll have a short Q&A to learn about the functionalities, and the panel will be comprised of yours truly, your mentor Marco, and we're also joined today, I believe, by AWS's very own Leon Valencia. And yeah, what else can I tell you? So the applications or the projects will be based or judged on UX design, uniqueness, technical complexity, practicality, and X factor. So the wow factor of the project, its propensity to garner user adoption. Again, we'll learn more about that later. Yeah, that's it from us. We're really excited to see your creative development solutions to blockchain's most challenging and exciting problems. Thank you so much for joining Genesis Blocks. We hope to learn as much from you guys as you learn from us over the next few days.
All right. Thank you so much, Nico, for that warm message to our viewers and our participants. And now let us proceed to our hackathon mechanics. Right, just a quick overview. The BreederDAO Hackathon in partnership with Stackly is a weekend virtual blockchain hackathon that challenges participants on their drive for innovation by building applications using Solidity. Take note that only registered teams via the link that you see on your screen can join, and that the deadline of our registration was last August 17, 2022. For our team composition, teams must consist of 1 to 4 members. And to be qualified, you must be of legal age to join the hackathon. And participants must be skilled or familiar with the following programming languages: Solidity, React, Python, and Java. For the technology stack, mobile, web, or any platform are accepted, and it is required that applications must use Solidity. Final code must be hosted in any preferred Git repository for code review. Once again, the applications must use at least one of the following: React, Python, and Java. And for our hackathon proper, okay, so right now we are covering the mechanics of our hackathon. And for the theme, as what Nico mentioned earlier, so there will be no theme, so you are free for your creative ideas to flow. You are free to do whatever you want. So there will be no specific theme for this weekend's hackathon. And all of our events will be hosted via Zoom. All right. And we will be having our Discord server. So this will be our official Discord server for the duration of our hackathon. And hackathon participants must be able to join our server. So we have already sent you a communication, email, and a message containing the link of our Discord. So if you have not yet accessed our Discord server, let us know by sending a message here in Zoom. So our Discord server will contain the following: our announcements, the mentorship consultation, and of course, your respective team channels. And for our demo and judging, during the demo day, teams will have 8 minutes. Please take note. Teams will have 8 minutes to present and demo their applications, which contains the introduction, functionality and core code highlights, and 7 minutes for the Q&A with the judges. Strictly no presentation slides, only application demo. Okay, the demo and judging will be hosted via Zoom with the same link that we are using right now. And participants must use the official event Zoom background during the presentation, which we will be sending also at our Discord server. So all of our important communications will be done via our Discord server. Once all team demos are complete, judges will convene for a day to evaluate and do code review. So the next day, which is on Monday, we will be having our awarding ceremony. Please take note that the hackathon winners are to be announced and must be present during the awarding ceremony, which is on Monday, and that hackathon winners will be given a minute to give their winning message. Hackathon participants must turn their cameras on during the awarding ceremony. Please take note to our participants who are with us tonight. And again, this event or program will still be hosted via Zoom. And for our criteria for judging. Okay. 20% is the user experience and design. So this is how easy and intuitive to use your application, or is it visually appealing? 20% is for uniqueness. How unique is your project, or is it something that we've never seen before, or is it a new concept? 20% for the technical complexity. How technically demanding is your submission? 20% for practicality. Is this something people would really use or want? 20% for X factor, anything not covered above. So this is for you to stand out in some other way. And for our prizes, the top 3 winners will receive the following cash prizes. Our first place will receive 100,000 pesos. And for the second place, 50,000 pesos. And for the third place, 30,000 pesos. And also, we have our special categories. We have the most optimal code, who will receive 10,000 pesos. And for our best presenter, who will also receive 10,000 pesos. And take note that our winners will also receive pre-qualification status for a career opportunity at BreederDAO. And that's it for our hackathon mechanics. Now, at this moment, I would like to introduce to you our judges and mentors for the BreederDAO Hackathon. Our first mentor is a blockchain lead with proven experience in the banking industry with a degree in business economics from the University of the Philippines. His field of expertise includes blockchain technology, operational excellence, Lean Six Sigma, JavaScript, and Python. Our first mentor is Mr. Marco Romero, and he is the blockchain development lead at UBX Philippines. Our second mentor is a software engineer with a special interest in financial applications and security. With 8+ years of software development experience, he has been able to create more than 10 applications. He is incredibly passionate about blockchain technology, having been in the space since 2018, with a particular focus on NFT technology. Everyone, I would like to introduce to you our second mentor, Mr. Paul Cass. And for our third mentor is a senior front-end developer at BreederDAO. He specialized in React and TypeScript development. Previously worked with multiple Web3 projects, which ranges from NFTs to DeFi. Everyone, let us all welcome our mentor, Mr. Reynard Marquez. And for our fourth mentor the senior front-end developer at BreederDAO. He is also working as full stack developer for almost 10 years now. With that experience, you get to realize that software and cathedrals are pretty much the same. First, we build them, then we pray. On a serious note, in this field, learning is a continuous process of gaining knowledge and skill, as what our fourth mentor said. Everyone, our fourth mentor is Mr. Jarak Dayalino. And now to our judges. Our first judge, I think I was able to introduce him earlier, the Chief Technology Officer at BreederDAO and a member of Forbes magazine's 30 under 30 list, Mr. Nico Udulio. And our second judge, okay, so we would like to, okay, so originally our one of our judge is Mr. Jake San Juan, but he is unavailable for tonight. But we are very thankful to have Mr. Leon Carlo Valencia, the Startup Solutions Architect at Amazon Web Services, as one of our judges for our weekend hackathon. And for our last judge, he's a blockchain lead with proven experience in the banking industry. With a degree in business economics from the University of the Philippines, his field of expertise includes blockchain technology, operational excellence, Lean Six Sigma, JavaScript, and Python. Our third judge is Mr. Marco Romero. So at this moment, I would like to remind everyone of our agenda, although this was already sent to you earlier via email. Okay, so this will be our whole agenda for the weekend hackathon. Today we have our hackathon kickoff. So tomorrow and on Sunday will be our coding proper and mentorship. And on Sunday, on August 21 at 1 p.m. will be the demo and judging. And on Monday, August 22, will be our awarding ceremony. So everyone, for our participants, please take note of our agenda for this weekend. So once again, all of our participants are required to join our Discord server. So you may join our Discord server via the link that you see on your screen right now. Or we will also be sending that one in our message box in a while. So be sure to join our Discord server, and please use your first name, use your team name and first name for us to identify you when you join our server, and for us also to assign you to your respective team channels with our mentors. And with that, I would like to introduce to you our teams and for those who just joined us tonight, if you haven't submitted your form for the team information, please send us a message so we could send you the link. So we have Team Glean, Team NEWRL, we have Bathala, we have Team SARS, Tofi, Piero's team, Team C137, 10 billion points, and J Dave. All right, so that's it for our mechanics, prizes, agenda, and I hope that we were able to introduce our mentors and judges. And now at this moment, we will be having an AWS. One of our partners here is from AWS. So we will be having a presentation and a demo from the Startup Solutions Architect at Amazon Web Services. I would like to call in Mr. Leon Carlo Valencia.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. Can I share my screen?
Sure. Sige, go ahead.
Let's see. Okay. Start. Okay, so it's still disabled from my end. You can share the screen. There it's okay now. Let's see. Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen now?
Yes, you can see your
Okay.
screen, Leon.
Okay, so the discussion is actually around it's a standard discussion or a standard talk that I usually do for startups, but then I tweaked it a bit since I'm not talking to startups right now. So the reason for this deck being particularly for startups is that I'm a startup solutions architect with AWS. So that means that I primarily work with startups who try to build on AWS, and I help them build their systems on AWS. Okay, so this talk is going to be around building apps and building apps easily, which I suppose would help you since you're doing a hackathon right now. Okay, so first, let me just tell you about the why first. Why building apps the right way matter. Now, just a little bit of software history. This is what you see here is actually a progression of technology over the years, specifically of software technology. So from the very beginning, there's just instructions and all the way to what we have now, which are apps, APIs. Now, I'll skip all of the early parts. I don't want to bore you with history, but this is something that I've actually been around long enough, unfortunately, to experience. So originally, I was when I first joined the industry, my very first job, or actually my second job, is that of a client server software engineer. So back then, the internet was still a new thing, or at least relatively new. And when I was in college, actually, one of the things that I remembered about building software when I was still in college, that most of the things that people are building are applications and systems. So applications and systems, meaning to say that you build on machines. You have an operating system to work with. Sometimes you're a system developer, meaning to say that you work with device drivers, for instance, for operating systems. And then there are also developers who works on applications. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is that when the internet first came, one of the things that was quite prevalent among developers was that even though they were already building client-server software, meaning to say code needs to run on a server back end, and then you have your client, which is typically just either a thin client or a web browser, for that matter. A lot of developers still tend to build with the mindset that they're building on a desktop, meaning to say that they have powerful servers at their disposal, but they can't figure out or most of them can't figure out whether to run a specific piece of code in the server side of things or in the client side of things. In fact, this became a lot more complicated when JavaScript became a lot more prevalent, because before, when you would code, pretty much most of the heavy lifting would be on the server side of things. So it was still easy for application developers. But then JavaScript started to evolve. A lot of now there is a separation of concerns, and now developers in particular, tend to get confused where to put things. Now, perhaps the bottom line that I'm trying to say or to tell you about this is that a lot of because the internet was new, and because client server softwares were a new thing, people are still taking their old mindsets, their old way of doing things, which is back when developers are building applications and systems, and then they carry it over to client server development. And moving forward, actually, that even got a lot more complicated nowadays. I mean, probably the new developers would not feel this, but at least the older ones who started developing in client server software, such as myself, we had difficulty in adapting to, say, building APIs and then building apps, front-end apps in particular. Because me, for example, in particular, I am quite used to building software or running most of the heavy lifting on the server side of things. So instead of developing APIs, what the tendency for as older developers, at least in the beginning, was to pretty much build old monolithic client server software. And that is that is actually still prevalent nowadays, even with the advent of the cloud, in which case you have the power of a lot of APIs, a lot of SaaS applications, a lot of managed services at your disposal. But old people who are coming from client server software development tend to still build rather monolithic server heavy applications. Now, I guess, long story short, the bottom line, and if there's one key takeaway that I want you to get from this, is that don't use a new technology like you would the old. This is a very human thing, and it's natural that when a new technology comes up, you would have wrong expectations about the technology. I mean, everyone would have that, but over time, we should have, as developers, especially as technologists, we have to have this mindset that we need to we need to evolve. We need to essentially adapt to newer technologies. So with the advent of the cloud, that means that we need to scrap, well, at least hopefully scrap server side things, server and client paradigms or mindsets. Okay, so I guess one of the things, and perhaps this will drive the point, is that a lot of developers nowadays tends to misuse the cloud, and I've seen this a lot. Whether we're talking about developers in enterprise, from large enterprises, in which case the tendency is to have a very data center centric thinking. Even though they're on the cloud, they would still tend to build systems like as if they're on a data center. And even among startups are supposed to be nimble. Like the tendency is to develop systems in, I suppose, in a very mismatched way. So they would learn about the new technology, then quite misuse it, and then they would automatically just discount that technology or that specific service and say that it's very difficult to use, or that it's not what it has promised to be. And oftentimes, when I would look at their architecture or the application, it's almost always the same thing. It's that they're misusing the service or the technology because they're used to a specific way of doing things. Okay, now, shifting gears, the reason why that is relevant is because one of the things that you would notice about AWS, if you take a look at AWS, is that we have a ton of services. In fact, AWS has a broad set of services, 200, more than 200 now. I think even more than 250 now. No single SA would actually know all of them, because even if, say, I know all of them as of the moment, maybe a month from now, there would be a new service that has come out. Now, this tends to become a challenge for a lot of our customers, and perhaps it would be a good thing to take a step back first to appreciate why AWS does things this way. Now, the reason for the broad set of AWS services is that we like to think of our services using the Lego model. This is something internal that we talk about, by the way. That simply means that the services that we provide, we don't think, or even we don't believe that on a one size fits all solution. We don't. A lot of the service that we have, sometimes you would notice that they're competing. Some of the services are even competing us. We believe that in a very specific scenario, in a very specific use case, or a very specific workload, one tool may be better than another. So the beauty of that model is that it affords customers a lot of flexibility. In fact, believe it or not, the image on the right side is a picture of a car that is built using Lego. So that's how powerful this idea is, this model is. Unfortunately, though, that also means that you need to be very, very adept and good at, say, using the services that you need. And in fact, that's the reason why AWS even has a lot of solutions architect to help our customers, is because how much you study AWS, what would end up happening is that you would only be able to grasp perhaps a number of them. And in a very specific scenario or workload, you would want to apply some services over others. And that's where we come in. That's where we can help. Anyway, the challenge for some teams is that, and by the way, this is especially true for startups, is that they would just as easily trade in flexibility for speed. In a startup environment, and this is not just true for startups, even for small and medium businesses, is that you need to deliver your systems quickly. So sometimes the idea of being flexible is not really necessary or needed for some teams. Of course, if you're a large enterprise with deep pockets, with hundreds of developers, then you would appreciate the flexibility, and you wouldn't care if it would take a year or two or millions of dollars to build a system, if that's what you really need. But anyway, the simple solutions idea that I'm talking about right now it's essentially just a few curated services that I'd like to think would be quite useful for teams who are just starting from the cloud or just starting building in the cloud. So taking the Lego analogy a bit further, think of it like Duplo. Duplo, for those who are unfamiliar, is Lego that is actually for kids, not really, for toddlers. So if you give a toddler the full set of Lego, they would probably not know what to do with it. But if you give something like Duplo, which is larger pieces, smaller, fewer pieces, but larger ones, then they would be able to build things. And then, of course, as they progress, as they grow and learn, they would at some point learn how to use the full set of Lego pieces. Now, anyway, shifting gears a bit, the reason why this is relevant is because in the industry, in the tech industry right now, you'll notice that a lot of companies are actually becoming replaced. In fact, there's been a study by Innosight in the past that the rate of companies being displaced is becoming faster over the years. Meaning to say that a lot lifespan of companies wherein they're at the top or at their prime is becoming shorter and shorter. Now, that also means that more companies are being born. And borrowing a principle from biology, those who are actually the way to survive in business. So if you belong to a business, whether you're a startup or small medium business or probably even an enterprise, it's not the strongest or the largest or the fastest that will survive. It's the ones who are most responsive to change. Adaptability is essentially equivalent to survivability nowadays in business. And to give you some examples, what you have here is actually a collage of some companies that have disrupted their some very large, some very established industries. Like for example, Airbnb and Expedia disrupted the hotel industry. GrabFood and DoorDash disrupted the restaurant industry. And then you have Prime Video and Netflix who disrupted broadcasting. And in fact, even I would argue that nowadays Zoom and Slack have actually disrupted, believe it or not, the real estate industry. Because I've seen a lot to drive up to prove that to you. One of the things that I've noticed among startups actually nowadays is that a lot of startups, probably even other companies, are no longer going back to the office, whether or maybe doing something hybrid, work from home and going to the office. Now what that means essentially for real estate is that what used to be large offices for some companies, they would now opt to not renew their lease, forgo an office entirely, or probably just keep a single room just so they have a legal address. And the function of the office in the past is to collaborate, right? So right now that's being done by Zoom, within Zoom and Slack, among teams that are working from home and working hybrid. So essentially, you can think of it that Zoom and Slack are actually disrupting the real estate industry. Now, one of the things that you'll notice about all of these companies is that I wouldn't say they're new. A lot of them are new companies, but then Netflix, for example, is quite an old company. But one of the common things about them is that they are quite agile. And one of the things that allows them to be agile is the cloud. In fact, what we realized in AWS is that the number one reason why organizations move to the cloud is actually agility. Okay, now, with that said, one of the things that you will, I mentioned earlier that there are a lot of AWS services, right? But not all AWS services are created equal. For example, in here, you have a spectrum of AWS services. On the left side of things, you have the least managed services, meaning to say they're pretty much, you can think of them as just data centers in the cloud, but instead in the cloud. So they are VMs, EC2 servers. What this affords you is that you have more control, but then there's heavier work. And in fact, if you go for the lowest common denominator among cloud providers, you'll probably have technology locked in. People talk a lot about provider lock-in, but when they're trying to not be locked into a specific provider, what happens is that they get locked into a specific technology. So concrete example, let's say instead of using Amazon Aurora, you opted to use MySQL on EC2, running on EC2. That means that you're going to have a team that actually manages MySQL on EC2. You gain expertise, best practices, tooling around just MySQL. And you're spending all of these resources and now you're locked into MySQL because, well, you already built a lot of muscle around it. On the other hand, on the flip side, let's say you, on the right side of things here, on the far right of the spectrum, you have more managed services. Now, if you go up from managed services, what happens is that there's lighter work, meaning to say your development teams, your tech teams can focus more on business logic, essentially. So if you're building an app, instead of learning how to manage MySQL, learning how to effectively run it, to tweak it, to patch, to manage it on EC2, then you just use Aurora or DynamoDB. Now, lighter work means also that it's easier to evolve your product because your teams didn't build this muscle around a very specific technology. It would be easy to say move from DynamoDB to MongoDB or to Grafana if you need a time series database. And in fact, for really mature startups, you would notice. I've actually noticed that a lot of the organization is actually quite heterogeneous, meaning to say that the teams have chosen specific technologies that are unique for their own subsystem or their own microservice, for that matter, because most of them are building microservices. So that's where I'm coming from when I'm talking about simple app solutions, because simple app solutions is essentially leveraging on these managed services to be able to quickly build and deploy your systems. So less worrying about the technology and more worrying about your specific use case, your specific business case, or your specific application for that matter. So, okay, so the first one that I have here is actually around building web application and mobile applications without backend skills, or with minimal backend skills, I would say. Now, the reason why this is relevant is that one of the things that you'll notice that is quite important among companies nowadays is that you really need to have innovation. And the problem with that is that innovation drives complexity. I've seen companies, startups who have a very, very simple mobile application, but then when you bring in all of the other factors like big data, personalization, handling multiple devices, multiple medium, putting in artificial intelligence and machine learning. And by the way, the reason for all of this is because I would say that consumers nowadays are becoming more and more spoiled. They're expecting a lot more from the applications that they're using. And because of this innovation, now it would be very difficult to survive in business if you're not providing your users, your customers, a lot of innovative or a highly innovative solution. Now, apart from the complexity that those things add, the expectations of users, you add to that, of course, some of your own requirements, like you need to be secure. For example, especially if you have to be compliant for, say, if you're in fintech, you have to be BSP compliant, for example. You need to also consider online and offline access for your users. Of course, you want to lower your cost. You want to develop your systems quickly. You need to adapt to, or you need to use very specific frameworks. Or sometimes even if you go with microservices, perhaps your teams would have different frameworks. But anyway, all of these things, I'm not going to go through all of them, is that they increase the complexity of even just a simple web or mobile application. And of course, add to that, you need to go to market quickly. You need to innovate and differentiate regularly, or I would say continuously, rather. And then, of course, you want to be highly performant, secure, and global. Now, the solution that AWS provides for that, for all of these, actually, for building web and mobile app that are very, very complex, now that became very complex systems, is to use is the service called AWS Amplify. So AWS Amplify is the fastest way to develop mobile and web applications at scale. So essentially, it provides you with tools and services that allows you to get to market faster. It has a comprehensive feature set that, of course, your development teams would have to understand and study so that they can use it. And its performance, it scales. It's built on AWS. Underneath Amplify are actually the various AWS services like S3, CloudFront, AppSync, DynamoDB, Lambda. So those are the services that are powering Amplify. And Unlike other services that allows you to build mobile apps and web apps wherein it's a black box, Amplify is actually, as I mentioned, it's powered by different AWS services, the Lego pieces that I was talking about earlier. And the beauty of that is that, yeah, at some point you probably need speed, but when you start to scale, let's say, for example, if you're a startup that fortunately survived and even flourished, then at some point you would have to scale. You would have to add more features now that you have a larger user base. You have to ensure that your systems are scalable, that your systems can be performant despite having a lot of workload, a lot of users simultaneously or concurrently using them. So as I mentioned, since Amplify uses different AWS services underneath, and it's not really a black box that you cannot change, then that means that you can, at some point, have the flexibility that you actually traded for when you used Amplify because you want to develop faster. Anyway, this is just some of the features. No, just skip that part. Another, and this is the second. I wouldn't say this is actually not an AWS service, but the second solution that I want to talk about is around how to build serverless applications easily. Serverless, for those who are unfamiliar, is actually a new blossoming technology. There are a lot of services that are powering it, whether you're looking at it from AWS or even our other competitors. There are a lot of serverless services and technologies that are available. But the one big problem that I've noticed with serverless, and in fact, this is the story that I was talking about earlier. A lot of people are using, for example, building things on serverless, and then at some point they would get back to us and then tell us that, hey, I think Lambda is not for us. It's not working quite well. I'm having problem X, for example, a specific problem that they are getting in serverless. And then when I dig deep to the problem, it would only what I realized is that they're not really using serverless properly. Now, the reason for this is since serverless is a relatively well, it's half a decade old, actually, more than half a decade old already, almost a decade old, but still, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are coming from server-based client-server programming, for those who are old enough, or even for those who are not old enough, building monoliths on virtual machines. And the idea of in serverless, it's a very different way of thinking. It's a very different way of development. And because of that, a lot of teams actually misuse serverless. Their own, what you have here is actually basic AWS services, basic serverless services within AWS. So you have Lambda, CloudFront, Cognito, DynamoDB, API Gateway. And as I mentioned, a lot of people are misusing it because it's in the world of serverless, what tends to happen is that you now have a mix. You now have to consider both the infrastructure, or actually some layer of your infrastructure and your application in a single unit. And that is very, very different from, say, building a monolith wherein you have development teams in separate operations teams. And then after the development teams would finish their building a feature, they would then throw it to the operations team who would deploy it on virtual machines, on servers. And then they would be the ones maintaining and operating the systems. So right with serverless, it became a very different mindset. Now, development teams need to own their part of the system, their subsystem, from end to end. In fact, a lot of the more modern thinking, like CI/CD, DevOps, it pretty much fits very, very well with serverless and modern applications in general, like containerization and using Kubernetes, for example. Now, the solution that I would recommend for this is actually to use an open source framework for serverless called Webany. So they are technically, or the way they position their product is that they are a serverless CMS. But if you look actually, since it's open source, you can look at the code. What they actually built is a framework for a serverless framework. A lot of the pieces that they're building, in fact, a lot of the features that they're providing, like the headless CMS, the no-code page builder, having a publishing workflow, all of this are in the form of plugins that you can, since it's open source, you can modify, or in fact, you can, rather than modifying them, you can just add more plugins. So it's a very pluggable system. And the framework that essentially means that it's very extendable and a very powerful framework for that matter. Now, just to perhaps to make it more concrete, one of the use cases that you would probably find if you look at Webany's website is that you can build APIs using their CMS. Can build a graph, and in particular though, you build a GraphQL API. So and since it's a framework, they actually they abstract all of the or most of the things that makes serverless difficult that I mentioned earlier, wherein you need to, in your head, think about both some layer of the infrastructure and your application. Now, with Webany, you don't need to do that. You just think of your service and then think of the code that you need to run. And then probably there are even cases where you don't even need to write code. Just use the Webany's page builder perhaps, or their CMS, so that you can build a GraphQL API. In fact, that's what I'm going to demo later. And of course, as you're building your system, all of these services, when you put them together, one of the problems specifically with serverless is that if you do this and say you use API gateway, managing the various systems can be a nightmare. I personally experienced that when we started out with serverless before I joined AWS in my previous company. And the beauty of Webany is that they abstracted this layer out. So essentially, you just have to think about your business logic, perhaps some code, modeling your APIs, and then just let Webany handle the rest. Okay, so that's actually ends my talk. Any questions? Let me stop sharing first. Okay, if there are no questions, I think I can just skip or move to the demo. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let me share again my screen, a different screen this time. Let's see. Yes. Okay, so later, AWS actually worked with BreederDAO, and we're going to provide, for this hackathon, we're going to provide you with disposable accounts. So these accounts, you can use them for the next 3 days. And then you just need to go to this link. I'll share it in the chat. Everyone, there. And then provide that hash on this on the screen that I provide. I'm not going to put the hash here because I would be claiming one account if I do that. Those accounts are for you. But anyway, what you will get actually, let me just skip that to that part. What you'll actually get is a screen like this. So you will, what Event Engine will provide you, it would be an AWS account that you can access either through console or programmatically using the credentials that are provided. So if you're familiar with, for example, AWS CLI, it's something you can install on your on your machines, and then you can use this credentials for running AWS CLI. Now, AWS CLI is just one way to say access your AWS account. The other way is to use the web console, which I am opening right now for this specific for the account that I'm using. So as you're developing one of if you're going to use the web console, for example, what you'll be greeted with is this is the AWS console, the web console that we have. So at the top here you have, in my case, these are the services that I recently used. You can search for the services on top. Say, for example, if what you want is to just use a virtual machine, a virtual server in the cloud, then you can use EC2. If what you need is serverless, then you can use Lambda. Or if you prefer, for example, there are ready-made solutions, and this is something that, in my opinion, should actually be on top. It's the build solution. You can just build a solution of the. It's an automated wizard that allows you to say launch a virtual machine if that's what you need. I reckon for the hackathon, you would probably stick with this since most of you, I suppose, would be familiar with using virtual machines. So you can launch a virtual machine in using build a solution section of the console. You can, for example, you can post a static web application. You can register a domain if needed, or build a web app using App Runner, or deploy a serverless microservice using API Gateway. Although this would not be using Webiny, you'll have to learn about API Gateway and Lambda if you use this. Anyway, so the example that I'm going to provide is hosting a static web app. Okay, so let's, by the way, what it means here by static website is not necessarily just HTML, CSS. Any SPA or even something generated by static site generator will work. So you can use Amplify hosting to host single page applications, anything generated by SSGs. So think Hugo, Jekyll, or Next.js. So, okay, let's see. Have Amplify hosting requires read-only access to your repository. Okay. Have something in GitHub we can use for this. Okay. Wait. Didn't know. Okay, here it is. All repositories, install and authorize. Oh, wait. Authentication code. Sorry, I have MFA on my GitHub. Wait. GitHub, here it is. Okay, so now it's authorized. Okay, let's look at the repository. Where was that? Okay, so this is actually just the standard the default. By the way, caveat, I'm not a front-end developer, so I just used the what comes out of ViewPress. Essentially, wait, I think this is the wrong one. Let me look for that. ViewPress. Oh, view sample, not the view. Okay, so essentially I'm just connecting Amplify to my GitHub repository. So Amplify would have a CI/CD pipeline built in for this. So just click next. Just the standard npm run build. Yep, that will work. Okay, environment variables. Okay, so essentially what this will do is that it's going to provision the resources needed. In this case, actually, Amplify is just using S3 and CloudFront, which is our CDN. So S3 is a storage, but then S3 has the capability to turn that storage into a web server. And then it also uses CloudFront for as the distribution network for your S3. So it's going to provision those resources, and then it's going to run a build, which is, as I've mentioned, just the default Vue project if you run if you install Vue. So, and then it's going to deploy it to the S3 bucket, and of course, from there it will you'll be able to access it from you'll be able to access the web application. While waiting for this. Access management. Yeah. Let me switch gears because I think this will take a few minutes. Anyway, there's another thing that I want to demo because this one it's for hosting your single page applications, your something you built with Angular perhaps or Vue or React. But let's say, how about for the backend side of things? I mentioned earlier about Webiny. So I'll switch my screen share. Terminal. Webiny. Okay. You know what? Let me just share my entire screen. Can I do that? Yeah, I can share multiple windows. 1, 2, 3. This one. Yeah, this one. Okay. So what I'll demo to you is this is actually something that I followed through earlier. There's this Webiny in Webiny blog. They have a run through of deploying a blog using Webiny and Astro. So Astro is a static site generator, but it's anyway, it's just a static site generator. So in the static site generator, of course, you can use JavaScript to call your backend. Now, essentially what I'll be demoing, of course, I'll So what that will do is it will create a new Webiny project. And then after creating a Webiny project, actually just have to deploy it. But this will take a few, quite a few minutes. So let me just, let's use the switcheroo magic. So I'll cancel that. So what you'll actually get after that is not this one, is this one. So essentially you will get a Webiny project that would provide you with GraphQL API already and an admin application. So if we open the admin application, let's see, I mentioned to you earlier about being able to say to build APIs, right? Just using Webiny. So I'll just demo that. So using their headless CMS, you can create a model. For example, I already created models. So let's just say, let's create a new one. Test, create a model. And then it's just drag and drop actually. So for example, if you need text that is, let's say it's name, and then let's say a long text, add it, and then let's say it's a description. And let's say you have files for images. And let's say it's your picture. So you probably know this would probably be a model for a person. Let me just rename that. Instead of test, let's call it person. Save. In fact, it's very similar to the one that I already created, which is that of an author, and then post. So of course, if you have blog, you have authors and you have posts. Now, again, doing the switcheroo, I'm not going to go through doing each one or modeling each of the various fields and I would say objects or content model. So let's say you've already built your model. Let's say you're thinking of a specific data structure for your API. Now, what I'll demo to you now is actually using that API. So for example, let me just grab, we have here a sample API call. So it's using GraphQL, which is quite powerful. Let's see. So in this playground, let's say I'm going to wait there. So it's actually going to provide me with. So it's essentially it would be reading the data that is stored already in Webiny. So in this case, wait. This is the playground. Let me open another. Another tab for it. Because I forgot to show that. Okay, so those models that were created, I actually pre-populated them. So for example, I created within authors, I put myself in, and let's say within posts, there's sample entry here that just provide that wherein it has a title. The slug would be the part of your part of your URL that would uniquely identify that specific piece of content, and then just some lorem ipsum. So actually, that's what I'm getting when I'm doing this read, when I'm doing the read API. So the list post is actually listing all of the posts, which is in this case, it's just a single one. And then, of course, it has the featured image, the title, and then the author, which is, I just use myself here. Okay. So this would allow you, Webiny would allow you to build out your APIs And then, of course, you can use your single page application that, say, you hosted on Amplify, and then now you have a web application, a full-blown web application. Let's see if okay. So this one, the one that I deployed, it's actually as I mentioned, it's just a standard, the default Vue project that you would get if once you first create a Vue project. Okay, so that ends my demo. So I hope it's clear that I just showed you how to, say, use Amplify to host your front-end application, and then how you can use Webany to quickly build an API. Of course, that would just be a front for whatever you build in this hackathon that would probably be hosted on an EC2 or a Lambda or whichever you need. Any questions?
All right, thank you so much, Leon, for the presentation and demonstration. Do we have any questions so far from our participants? So this is now your time to throw in your questions. So feel free to type them in our message box. Anyone? All right, so I think, Leon, our participants don't have any questions so far, but if you do, feel free to message in our Discord server. So, right, so far, there's one question, Leon, from Joseph. What are the specific AWS tools that we can use for a simple blockchain project?
I would say just EC2. So your standard virtual machine. So I showed you earlier in the in the console, the web console, that there's a quick solution there just to deploy an EC2 server, and then of course that would just be it can be a Linux machine. It can be, it's mostly Linux images there, but of course you can also run a Windows server if needed. So for the blockchain itself, for the core of your project, you can just use EC2.
There, so I hope that answered your question, Joseph. You have any follow-up question for that? All right, so I think that answered the question. Any more questions from our participants tonight? So feel free to type them in our message box, and Leon would be answering all of your questions. I think there's none. Thank you so much once again, Leon, for that presentation and demonstration. So don't worry, guys, if you have any further questions or clarifications, feel free to message in our Discord server. Once again, please do join our Discord server. So it's we have sent it on our message box here. So please join and use your team name and first name so that we would be able to assign you to your respective channels. So in our respective team channels, there are also our mentors there. So, and also there will be specific schedules for our mentors, which we have already sent the Friday night schedule on our mentorship channel and official announcements. So we will also be sending further schedules of our mentors for this coming weekend. So please, okay, so I can hear now people joining our Discord server. So once again, please use your team name and your first name so that we would be able to assign you to your respective team channels. All right. Okay, once again, please do join in our Discord server. So once again, thank you so much, everyone, for coming to our kickoff ceremony for the Genesis Blocks BreederDAO Hackathon. Once again, I would like to remind you of our agenda for this weekend. We will be having our mentorship and coding proper tomorrow, Saturday, August 21 to 21, Saturday up until Sunday. And our demo and judging will happen on August 21, Sunday, that's 1 p.m. And our awarding ceremony will happen on Monday, August 22 at 6 p.m. So all official announcements also will be done via our Discord server. So we will be, our team will be on standby if you have any questions or clarifications. So feel free to reach out to us. Right? So in behalf of the Stack League team and BreederDAO team, I would like to say thank you to everybody for joining the Genesis Blocks BreederDAO Hackathon kickoff ceremony. Once again, please do take note of the reminders and agenda that we have for this weekend. This has been your host, Isai. Good night, everyone.